How y'all doing? Welcome to the Blue Chip Podcast by fans for fans. This is your host Cody Potter. We're going to go over the Week 6 college breakdowns. We're going to talk a lot about college football. It was a good week. Can't complain. I'm a Miami U fan, so I'm just going to start with a few things, and we'll go from there because I think it was pretty obvious how we go. So we'll go to the college game day pick'em, so you can see the U.
I'm still going with the Canes.
And I think the reason why that is because we all just assume that Miami's much more talented at this stage of development of a team throughout a season. But then Florida State loses to Virginia. Does that wake them up a little bit? It's kind of hard to go back and forth, especially with a bunch of Florida boys battling here. They all know each other very, very well.
Yes.
But on that note, I think Miami's heading to maybe the Natty. So give me the Miami Hurricanes to beat Florida State today.
Looks like 3.
Yeah, I think both of the teams are in Florida, and the second part of it, let me think, is I know it. My biggest thing is Miami. I think they're not even getting talked about much. They're really, really ranked high. They're doing great. I like Carson Beck over there. I think he wins where he goes, and you got to respect that. He's a tall Stetson Bennett, I feel like. And then also, I want to say that my biggest fear is that Mario Cristobal.
So this is where we go. We got Miami in here, man. This is what we were looking for the college game day pick'em. Of course, Miami did win. Got the win over Florida State. Handled all the Florida teams. We are the state champions for college football in the state of Florida. That's what really matters. But no, in all seriousness, man, let's get to the player breakdowns and things like that. We're going to get some, highlights and stuff like that playing in the background just so you're not just watching me every time. So here you go on that. So we'll get right to it, man. We'll start with Maryland and Washington, man. Denzel Boston, hell of a receiver, man. This guy, you just can't hold this guy down for very, very long, man. He's a big 6'4", 205-pound wide receiver, man. He's everything you want from the wide receiver position, man. Most of my keys are going to be defensive today. But had to start with Denzel Boston, man. He's a guy that I really, really like in this upcoming draft, along with Jonah Coleman, the running back number 1 from Washington. Then one of my favorite cornerbacks, too, man, had a really good game. He made the last play at the end of the game, man, causing an incompletion for Washington. I'm just going to keep it real, man. McKellisteen, he's looking really good at strong safety, man. This is a really, really loaded strong safety class. Then when I got Jalen Husky, the free safety for Maryland, Jamari Glasker, the cornerback. I think he's a nickel when it comes to the NFL and things like that. But and then Daniel Wingate, the middle linebacker for the University of Maryland, man. The reason I highlighted this game first, man, one, Maryland's my local team. They're not my favorite team, but they're a team, of course, I always want to see Maryland do good. Big Ten football, man, they're starting to get physical. They're starting to get the type of players that you need there to compete in the Big Ten. Washington had a hell of a game against Ohio State. All they didn't do was capitalize, man. They kept kicking field goals. You aren't going to beat Ohio State, number 1 team in the nation, man, but Washington went they went toe for toe for them, and they really gave Ohio State probably the best game that anybody's given Ohio State since last year. So, the biggest thing was, both of them are very young teams, man. Both have really young quarterbacks, man. Looking forward to next year's draft class. I really like Damon Williams, man. He's a corner that I've been talking about all offseason if you've been watching me. And then the quarterback for Maryland, Malik Washington, was my favorite quarterback that came in as a true freshman this year. He's been exceeding expectations in Maryland, man. He has a beautiful arm, man. He throws with good base, very mature kid, keeps it very level. Maryland's just got to figure out how to win these big games, man. That's a big thing. Miami U, as you just saw from that little clip right there, man. Dude, Miami U's got some players, dude. Just really, really good players. Akeem Mazdor, man. This is a guy that I really hope is on Washington's radar. I mean, honestly, knowing AP, knowing Washington, man, the way that they're probably scouting this edge class, man, I'm sure they're looking around the SEC, they're looking around the Big Ten, but you cannot pass over the ACC right now with Miami and what they're doing. Reuben Bain Jr., we've talked about it here. He is a blue chip prospect, man. This guy is going to be a cornerstone player on a team, top 5 draft pick, everything you want, man. But Akeem Mazdor, man, he's honestly what I would consider like the Brian Thomas Jr. to Malik Neighbors coming out of LSU not this year but last year's class, with Jaden Daniels and all that, man. Like, you got two guys that are on the same team that are honestly grading out, very, very similar. Both of them are very impactful players. The defensive front on that Miami defense, man, they're deep, they're fast, they're big, they're hungry, they're relentless. Florida State did come back a little bit in that game. Hats off to them for not giving it up. They have a hell of a quarterback there, man. I really do respect what Florida State's doing. I like the coaching staff. I just think they're about a year or two away. I mean, just from really competing for a national title, man. But they have a lot of really exciting players there. Zachariah Poyser, the free safety for Miami U, he is a big, rangy, physical safety. I like this guy. He's probably listed more as strong safety for them. I think he has what it takes to be interchangeable in this league, and honestly, I think both of them do, because I'm about to talk about Bryce Fitzgerald as well. He is the listed free safety at Miami University. I think they're both very interchangeable. They both can play each side. It doesn't really matter. They're both really, really excellent tacklers in the run game. Short tacklers on the back end once, if a completion is caught. They're just two really, really dynamic back-end safeties. Both of them bring a ton of energy. Both of them are very sound, short tacklers, man. Like, on the back end, you can't ask for nothing more like that, And then C.J. Daniels, man, coming over from LSU, man. This dude is a hell of a football player, man. Everybody knows the speed and the dynamic ability that Tony has. I almost look at C.J. Daniels almost like that Terry McLaurin, like at Ohio State, where it's like you have all these other guys that were there, and the one guy kind of goes under the radar. I think C.J. Daniels is a little bit better player in college than Terry McLaurin. Doesn't have the same route. A little bit, definitely a higher recruit coming out of high school. But C.J. Daniels is a hell of a football player, man. I thought it was really cool. His eye black, he was honoring Kyron Lacey, man, and things like that. C.J. Daniels has amazing hands, and he is a sure route runner, man. He is like everything that I love from the wide receiver position, man. Honestly, if come April, if you told me Washington picked nothing but players out of Miami University and it was C.J. Daniels and Mazador and maybe one of them back end safeties or something like that, man, I tell you, I'd be a happy person, man. I'm really loving what I'm seeing from the linebacker play across the country. I'm really, really loving what I'm seeing from the safety play around the country. Washington's defense, I think, as they turn over this roster, and they start implementing the Dan Quinn identity and things like that, and they start to match what this offense is given, up front with all the additions, on the offensive line. They're going to build it very similarly to how Miami University is building it, where I believe they have the best offensive line in the country. I believe they also have the best defensive line in the country. When Georgia was winning their national titles, when Alabama was winning their national titles, even Clemson having, all the defensive players that they had, over the years, up front, with big offensive linemen, of course they had, number one recruits at quarterback and things like that, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, and things like that when they were winning their national titles. But again, up front was where it all started. I believe that's where it really does, Oklahoma back when they were competitive, man, Trent Williams, Lane Johnson, guys like that, it really does start up front with the big guys, man, and that's where I get, that's where I always start my scouting. I love my scouting. I finished the offensive line right before my cornerbacks, which I do last, but, because it's just easier for me to do it that way. But as the season's going on, I have to tally, like the offensive line. I cannot go back if I'm not tallying them. I have to know what I'm looking for when I go back and I do lock in my grades. But defensive line and things like that, I have to do individually week to week, because it's really hard to you can't catch up on that if you're not doing it like that. Just for me and my system, the way that I use, the way that I scout and things like that. So again, man, and then Jacoby Thomas, another nickel safety kind of guy. Like honestly, he's a guy that's coming down the pipe. He's not, I don't think, draft eligible this year for Miami University, but another back-end player that's really, really dynamic, really, really fast, really, really sound, good feet, good eyes, doesn't, over pursue or things like that, doesn't get caught with this, staring at the quarterback. That's a thing that I'm noticing with all three of these back-end players from Miami University. So again, man, I wanted to talk about Miami U. It was tight to get the gauntlet, run through the gauntlet in Florida, USF, and then Florida, and then Florida State. That's what you got to do when you're Miami U, man. I think there's real national title aspirations and stuff for this team. I think it's a really good time to be a football fan for the two teams that I really, really root for, man. Watching Washington develop with Jaden Daniels, seeing that offense, grow and come together, knowing that, it's year 2 of a rebuild with Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, and knowing the identity that they want to cause. Again, I'm a scouting thing. I scout players for my team, and that's mainly what I do, but it doesn't mean that I don't grade players for other teams. Once we get to the offseason, you'll hear me talk a lot more about other teams and their scheme fits and players that I really, really like for them that maybe I don't necessarily talk about week in and week out as the season goes along for my team. So trust me, if you're not just a Washington fan in the offseason, you will get your shine. Trust me, if whatever team you like, I will definitely, I'll be talking about them. I'll be talking about your college team. I'll be talking about your pro team. So just stick with me, because it's not all Washington based once it gets to the offseason and things like that. But as the year goes, I cannot keep up with other teams. As far as scouting them, breaking them down, looking at weaknesses and identifying, I got to watch more as a fan. But it doesn't mean I don't take notes on these other teams as well. Then we go to the Texas Tech game, man. The Texas Tech-Houston game, both teams were undefeated coming into this game. Both teams are really, really good. You knew Texas Tech was probably going to win. They're just really, really deep, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, just higher graded players, more talent. I mean, they're a really, really good football team, man. Texas Tech is going to make some noise. I think honestly, if they continue to play the way that they're playing, I think Texas Tech has definitely got a seed in the college football playoffs this year, man. Like everything that I'm seeing from like Romello Height and David Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez, man. Jacob Rodriguez is probably one of the best coverage linebackers in the country, besides a guy that I'm going to talk about. Actually, I'll just mention him because I don't have that many keys for Pittsburgh. Kyle Lewis. Kyle Lewis is a hell of a coverage linebacker, man. Like this guy is he's a first-round talent at linebacker. He has everything you want in the modern era of football. A little bit lighter for my liking than, I believe that, if you get small on defense, teams start to be able to run against you. So if you got a smaller linebacker and he can't shed blocks, Kyle Lewis is showing the ability to be able to do things like that. But when you get offensive linemen in the NFL to the second level, how is he going to handle that? In college, he's doing it. In the ACC, he hasn't played Miami or any of these teams like that, so it's really hard to know. But against Boston College, against the teams that Pittsburgh's played, Kyle Lewis is shining, man. And he's a guy that's going to put on weight at the NFL level, man. He's got the frame to carry it. He's got all the instincts, man. I don't think he's actually a true middle linebacker as far as, the quarterback, the green dot. But he is like that Navarro Bowman to like Patrick Willis type player, man. And he's like that modern day guy that has all the skill set to do all the things that like Luke Kuechly and like the Denver Broncos linebacker that just came from San Francisco, man. He just, can coverage, can drop back, but a physical, violent hitter, everything in the run game, everything cover, the coverage grades are probably the best in the country, honestly, when I'm looking at it from Kyle Lewis. And again, talking about Braden Jordan from Texas Tech, very good coverage linebacker, very, very good thumping linebacker. Like, honestly, like I said, the linebacker play, I haven't even talked about LSU that much this year because I haven't keyed their games, outside of, the big games that they've played. But again, Weeks is in this class. I highlighted the Pittsburgh linebackers, both of them, both before the season started. Mississippi State in this game right here. They have a linebacker in Nick Mitchell I really, really like. I think he's more of a mid-round, prospect, but he's going to make a team look really, really smart because he's going to have an impact on special teams. Very, very good. Very, very instinctive. Maybe doesn't test through the roof or things like that. He's not going to be a day 1 pick because of that. Things like that. He might not even be a day 2 pick. But when you look at what he has on tape, he's a very, very good football player. So you don't really need him to run them 4.5s or the 4.6. He might be a 4.7 guy, maybe a 2-down run-stopping linebacker in the NFL, depending on how he tests, depending on what you see in the agility drills and things like that. But on tape, that's what you're seeing right now. But as far as the impact that he brings in the run game, that's what you're looking for from the linebacker position. Again, then Jacob Rodriguez, that's who I was talking about. Jacob Rodriguez, not Braden Jordan. Braden Jordan's a really good safety that I like from Texas Tech. He's a hell of a football player. And then Xavier Stillman, he was the player that I keyed for Houston. I thought he had the best game for Houston. The game kind of got out of hand pretty early in Texas Tech, so I mean, it's hard to find. But when you're looking for a player that's on a team that's losing by multiple scores, you're looking for that player to play with the same energy that he had from snap one to the last snap of the game. He's a guy that demonstrates that. That's how you scout. That's how you translate a player to the NFL. Is he playing with relentless effort even when his team is down? That's what you're looking for. And then Minnesota, OSU. Both these linebackers, man, both of these linebackers from Minnesota, these are some dudes. They are some thumpers. They are physical players. Minnesota was out of the OSU game again pretty early. You could just tell their offense can't keep up with Ohio State University. I mean, Ohio State's defense is probably second in the country to me, to Miami's, and it's very close. And then when I look at Ohio State and their playmakers and things like that, when you look at the roster top to bottom from the playmaker standpoint, I think Ohio State is better than Miami. When I look at the core of Miami, I think they're a little bit stronger. If you told me that come season's end, through the playoffs and everything like that, I think the playoffs probably do pan out right now with what you're seeing on tape. It's probably Ohio State versus Miami in the national title game. And, honestly, if that's how it does pay out, then there's nothing Miami can do but win that game. We cannot be giving Ohio State another one. It just cannot happen. My best friend's a Michigan fan. He would never let me live it down. So, again, but Ohio State, man, really, really good. But the two players I keyed from Minnesota are their two linebackers, man, Devin Williams and Maverick Bernowski. This is, again, relentless linebackers, man. Honestly, like old school run stopping grades. I mean, like when you see these guys fill the gaps very well. They can shed blocks. They're everything you want from the linebacker positions. And then you go to Ohio State University, you're looking at Lorenzo Styles. Lorenzo Styles is the modern prototype NFL linebacker, man. Height, weight, speed, block shedding ability, instincts, can call it. He's the green dot player for them. This guy is a first round linebacker. He's a true day one pick. If last year you think about the Georgia linebacker falling all the way to pick 32, I think Lorenzo Styles is an even better player than last year's linebacker coming out of Georgia. Just blanking on his name, went to the Philadelphia Eagles. Lorenzo Styles, man, he honestly, he has top 15 tape for me. And then Caden Curry. Caden Curry is a guy that I'm super, super enjoy. I just love watching this guy play. He's not that. Just the motor on this guy, man, and then the height, weight, speed, and everything to go with it, to be this level of prospect, to be that highly recruited coming out of high school, a lot of times, there's a lapse in their game, and sometimes it's effort, sometimes it's, it's multiple things, they're not working, they're not developing and getting better. Caden Curry is not that guy, man. This guy is everything you want from, the edge position, man. Just hand usage, the way that he can set you up. He has multiple pass rush moves already in college. Ohio State is known for putting out edge rushers, man. They have very, very good coaching on the edge rusher spot on the defensive line, honestly, inside and out. They do a really, really good job with their hand usage, the arm bent, just everything that they do, the angles that they attack with. They rush together as a unit, so it's not even just one guy being that guy. It's playing together as a team and running the system the way it's supposed to be. And then you had Kenyatta Jackson, the other edge, across from Curry. I think he's more of a second, third round player, but he was highly disruptive in this Minnesota game, man. I think he was really stepping out, man. You could tell he was winning his battles. He looked really, really impactful in this game. Sometimes when you see guys like that, it's they have to step up when Caden Curry's not having that dominant performance because teams are keying and chipping on him. Well, you need the other edge to step up and look dominant, and that's what he did. And he is getting the single team where Caden Curry's getting the chips and the tight ends, and things like that. And that's what you want to see from a player. But can Jackson, can he show that, he can handle double teams when the focus is on him? We haven't seen that yet. You're not going to see it really in college football with Caden Curry across from him. But when he gets to the NFL, I believe he is a guy with a really, really good skill set. And, Davidson, Igbinosun, this guy really, really progressed from last year being a little bit more handsy, a little bit more grabby. He was a guy that I highlighted in my notes last year in my preseason draft grades and things like that I was going into as I was ranking my players before the season. Igbinosun was a guy that I had, a big range on for what he's going to be as a prospect this year because of how grabby he was last year, because of the amount of holding penalties and things like that, because he is a big corner. He is a big physical corner. He does the tackling, he does all the dirty work, everything that you want to see. You just want to see him refine his technique and things like that. This year so far, he's been pretty fucking solid. I mean, I honestly, I think he took his game to a different level than I was even anticipating him doing. And hats off to him. He's made himself a lot of money so far. If he can continue to play in the big games the way that he's played so far this season, he's going to have a hell of a draft grade, man. He's made himself a lot of money this year. But again, we'll see as the games get bigger, when he plays the Michigans, when he plays the play teams in the playoffs, whoever Ohio State gets. That's where you're going to see him really earn the money. It's good to come out and show that you've refined your techniques and things like that. But when the games get bigger, that's where you're going to really learn about these players and things like that. And then we'll move on to Carnell Tate, another wide receiver again. I'm wide receivers, defensive line, linebackers, and things I scout through the season. It's just easier for me to do it that way because I can scout the defensive back as I'm scouting the wide receiver. I can start tallying and putting in notes in their files and things like that as I'm doing all of it. But the wide receiver position, I like to go through the year. It's just the way that it triggers my eye as I'm watching the game live. When I go back to do my individual scouts or my all 22s, it's a little bit easier to kind of do the positions that I'm not keying, as I'm watching the game live, more as a fan and just things like that, and noticing, numbers sticking out in the scheme and things like that. Carnell Tate's He's done pretty much solidified himself as a first-round wide receiver. Everything Emeka Egbuka did at Ohio State, everything that Marvin Harrison Jr., the Jackson Smith and Jigba's dude, Carnell Tate's just the next guy in Ohio State. And sometimes you get caught up in scouting the helmet more so than scouting the player. I think that happened a lot last year with Emeka Egbuka. I don't think he's a better player than Emeka Egbuka. I had a really high grade on Emeka Egbuka. I was honestly kind of I didn't want wide receiver this past year in the draft, but if he was there, he was the best player. And there wasn't really a player that I would have had graded over top of him, even Josh Connerly Jr. Even though I had Josh Connerly Jr. as a top 15 pick, I had Emeka Egbuka as my 11th ranked player on my draft board, and I was not high on last year's wide receiver class, but he just had, all the intangibles, the mental makeup. You could just tell, and not being the number one in Ohio State, but always producing and, just being the guy that when the team needed it most, the chain mover and things like that. Now you're seeing him in Tampa Bay. He's excelling even with Mike Evans out and things like that. Again, I think Carnell Tate's going to be a really, really fine player, a really, really dynamic number two. I think that is his ceiling, and that's perfectly fine. That doesn't mean he can't be a first-round player. Reggie Wayne was a dynamic number two, 1A, 1B. It doesn't mean you're an actual number two. T. Higgins, a dynamic number 2, 1B. It doesn't. He has the skill set to play inside, to play outside. He can win his matchups outside. He can win his keys inside. He's a very shifty wide receiver, has really good hands, and he's developed each year that he's been at Ohio State. And Carnell Tate's, he's made himself a lot of money playing there in Ohio State, and he's getting the best coaching from the position that you possibly can get with Brian Hartline Jr. Brian Hartline. Mississippi State, I didn't key a lot of players from this game. Really, just the same players that I've kind of mentioned over and over again. Kelly Jones is my corner for this class, man. Whether he grades out to be my number one player, whether he grades out to just whatever, he is probably my favorite player in the draft. Every year, there is a cornerback in the draft that is my favorite player in the whole class, and it's not because they're the highest graded player. It's because I love the way that they play. I love the way that they fit the team that my coaching staff, the scheme that my coaching staff implements. Kelly Jones is that player for me. Mikey Samerstill, Last year Trey Amos was a really, really good player. I liked him and Jody Barron. Jody Barron was like my guy last year, inside corner. Maxwell, that went to the Bills. He hasn't really had his opportunities yet. He's kind of dealt with injuries. I think he needed a little bit more time to be refined. But Jody Barron in Denver, I knew he was a day one step in. I knew Trey Amos was a day one step in. Both of them guys were like my favorite at the inside and out. And both of them guys are showing why. Trey Amos is honestly not even getting targeted in the NFL. And Jody Barron, in that defense in Denver, he's a really, really solid football player. You knew he was going to start day one. He's just very, very instinctual, very, very good feet. Maybe didn't have the best testing numbers. Maybe wasn't the best highway speed guy, but he was the best inside corner. I had him graded just under Mikey Samerstill. And the Kansas City Chiefs as far as an inside corner. So he had a top 4 grade for me overall, like as far as like what I've ever given a nickel corner. He was my number 4 behind, Mikey Samerstill and the Chiefs corner, number 22. Very, very good player. I for some reason, I blank his name every time I need it, and it's such an easy name to remember. But Mario Craver from Texas A&M, KC Conception, both of these wide receivers are really, really good players. I think that's the difference for Texas A&M because they are a physical football team. They run the ball really, really well. They play a physical style defense. They control the clock, but they have all the ingredients out wide between Conception and Craver, inside out, that really, really make Texas A&M a really deadly team. They're really playing good football in the SEC, and I expect that to continue. Cassius Howe is probably the best player that I have on Texas A&M, even though I think Marcus Ratcliffe, the free safety, I'm probably going to have a higher grade when it's all said and done. I think Cassius Howe just shows up really, really good. You can tell he's a graduate senior. Just he should be an NFL football player right now. The way his game is refined over the years being in college, he's a pro player in college football right now. He's going to make a team really, 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 really smart. They're going to get a value because of his age. He probably won't be a top 15 pick because of his age. But he's going to make a team look really, really smart because he's just going to be a day one starter, very, very smart, instinctual player in the run and the pass. And then, like I said, Marcus Ratcliffe, probably by season's end, the free safety will have the highest grade that I have for Texas A&M for their draftable prospects. And then a quarterback that I've talked about all year, man, Kevin Jennings from SMU. I don't know where he goes, honestly. I think he does still need work from playing within the pocket and things like that, but he has definitely grown exponentially in his time in college football. Dude, he's a really dynamic athlete. I have a higher grade on him than I had on Jalen Milroe last year coming out of Alabama, and I thought Jalen Milroe should have been a second round pick lock. Like honestly, like a top 10 pick in the second round. Like he should have gone no lower than pick 45. But he did. He went in the third round to Seattle, and I think he'll make Seattle look really, really smart for picking him. But right now, the way Sam Darnold's playing, you give him time to develop. It's almost in the Jalen Hurts thing where it's like, you have a starter, you draft a guy, the guy shows all the intangibles in the preseason and things like that, but Sam Darnold is actually playing up to the level of the contract that they signed him for. So you don't have no reason to rush Jalen Milroe. I think Kevin Jennings is going to be that type of player. I think, honestly, he's so dynamic, and his testing numbers are going to be off the charts. The hand size, everything. I mean, he has everything that you're looking for as far as the measurables and the testing numbers. I don't know, because he's playing at SMU, if that will affect him ultimately come the draft, where Jalen Milroe gets the SEC benefit of just not having the best team in Alabama, the Nick Saban's gone, and all the things that transpired there with him. What does Kevin Jennings' draft stock be is a little early for me to tell, but I like this guy a lot. He's a really good player. And then a strong safety that I really, really love. He's a yesteryear player, but he is very, very instinctual. Ahmad Moses, I've talked about him a million times, from SMU, number 3. He's a really good player. And then they have a linebacker that I like there too, and Brandon Booker. And then I already kind of talked about Pittsburgh a little bit, man. Nobody to highlight from Syracuse or Boston College right now. Like I said, I'm not going over offensive line. Both of them have offensive linemen that I really, really like that'll have high grades for me coming into this draft, but I'm not keying on them yet. That's why I'm not talking about them. And then, so like I said, I already talked about Kyle Lewis, man. He's one of my favorite linebackers in this whole class. Cruz Brookness. Strong safety from Pittsburgh. This guy is rangy, man. Honestly, like when I look at the safety position at Pittsburgh, they have a really good outside corner that I like in Harrison, and then Guire. Josh Guire from the free safety for Pittsburgh. Another guy that's grading out really, really well, really rangy, really smart, really good eye discipline. Does not let quarterbacks, draw him up the field based on eye discipline and things like that. And I've seen him play against good quarterbacks. So again, he's a guy that I have really, really good grades on coming into this season. Both of the safeties and both of the linebackers from Pittsburgh, man, they're going to get drafted in the first three frames. And they're going to make teams look really, really smart. They're physical. They're smart. They're everything you want from the position. They're going to be key special teams contributors. Maybe not Lewis because he's going to be a day one starter at linebacker. Man, this dude is too rangy. He's too smart in coverage. Like honestly, like every testing thing that you could want from this guy, he has. Puts on 10 more pounds, he'll be ready for the NFL. He'll be ready for the grind. Can he hold up? We'll see. But I mean, because you're not going to put on more than 10 pounds from this point in this season to this point next year. So there are some things that Lewis is going to have to work on, but for day one, he's going to be in the NFL. He's going to be playing, 60-70% of the snaps for a team. He's that ready to go. He's a really good player. So again, man, this is the Blue Chip Podcast, man. These are my highlights from this past week. I do watch small schools. Trust me, just because I'm not talking about them again. It's harder to find those guys. You have to key on those guys. You have to watch them. You have to grade them through the season, and then you go back and then you do your highlight on them. So by the time the Senior Bowl comes around, I will have all my grades on my smaller schools, got all my smaller school prospects. I have probably about a good 15 of them guys that I'm really, really high on that I think, and you'll see them in the Senior Bowl, and that's really where I lock their grades in. So again, that's why I don't really talk about them right now. It's not that I'm not watching the games. Trust me, I watch all these games. It's thousands and thousands of hours of football, man, and I just love it. It's what I do. So again, thank you guys for checking out the pod, man. I will be talking a lot in this offseason about every college football team's prospects, man. So if you like a certain college, you can comment. I can always go over your team's players if you comment on my YouTube page. Things like that. I can discuss more guys than what I'm just discussing. Like I said, I talk a lot about my team. You can tell me your pro team. I can tell you guys that I like for them. If you guys want to, I can be more interactive with things like that. If you stayed and, listen to this part, like I said, comment, tell me your favorite college. Tell me your favorite pro team. I can tell you guys that I'm really, really high on that fit your coach's staff system or wherever you guys are in your build. If you're going to have a new system next year, certain coaches that I think that might fit the identity that your team is looking for going forward with the players that you have, the state of your roster. Trust me, I do all this. So again, man, I appreciate you guys sticking around for the Blue Chip Podcast. By fans, for fans, this is your host, Cody Potter, man. Have a blessed day. Peace.